with a very powerful serve, he smashed it past his opponent. The crowd roared as Jack Anderson raised his arms in triumph, the Australian Open trophy glinting in the sunlight. The world's #1 tennis player had done it again, dominating the competition with his lightning-fast serves and razor-sharp volleys. But as Jack smiled for the cameras and waved to the adoring crowd, a different persona stirred beneath the surface, a persona known only as Nightshade. As the sun dipped below the Melbourne horizon, Jack made his way back to his luxurious penthouse apartment, where a sleek black briefcase awaited him. Inside, a customized pistol, a silencer, and a note with a single name, Vladimir Petrov. The tennis champion's eyes locked onto the name, and for an instant, his gaze turned icy. This was the life he kept hidden from the world, a life of calculated risk, of strategy, and of deadly precision. With his briefcase in hand, Jack slipped out into the night, disappearing into the shadows. The streets of Melbourne became his hunting ground, and Vladimir Petrov, a notorious crime lord, was his next target. The game of cat and mouse began, with Jack using his quick reflexes and cunning moves to evade Petrov's henchmen. He navigated the city's rooftops, using the darkness to his advantage. Finally, he arrived at Petrov's heavily guarded mansion, where a high-stakes poker game was underway. He took out one of the guards while dumping him in the shadows, quickly dressed up as the guard and blended in seamlessly. The moment of truth arrived when Petrov himself stepped into the room. Jack's eyes locked onto the target, and with a swift, silent motion, he drew his pistol and fired. The silencer muffled the sound, and Petrov crumpled to the floor, dead. As the room erupted into chaos, before Petrov's guards could draw their weapons, Jack melted into the shadows, disappearing into the night. The tennis champion had completed his mission, and Nightshade had claimed another victim. The next morning, Jack Anderson stepped onto the tennis court, his racket at the ready. The world saw only the champion, unaware of the secret life he led. But Jack knew the truth, that in the dark alleys and rooftops of Melbourne, Nightshade was always close, waiting for the next mission. Jack spent the next few days gathering intel and planning his next mission. He studied the intended facility's layout, learning every nook and cranny, every security camera and guard patrol. He created a detailed timeline of when and where he would strike. Finally, the night of the mission arrived. Jack dressed in his black tactical gear, his heart racing with anticipation. He made his way to the facility, avoiding security patrols and cameras with ease. As he reached the entrance, he pulled out a small device from his pocket and attached it to the lock. The device emitted a high-pitched whine, and the lock disengaged with a soft click. Jack slipped inside, finding himself in a dimly lit corridor. He moved swiftly and silently, his eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. He reached the server room, where the Eclipse project files were stored. Jack quickly got to work, hacking into the system and downloading the files onto a small USB drive. Just as he finished, he heard the sound of footsteps approaching. Jack's intel indicated he'd be alone once inside the server room, but he realized he wasn't alone. He turned to see Alexandra Petrova standing in the doorway, a look of surprise and anger on her face. "You're Nightshade," she whispered, her eyes narrowing. Jack didn't respond, instead choosing to act. He swiftly moved towards Alexandra, but she was too quick. She pulled out a small pistol from her pocket and aimed it directly at Jack's chest. "You're not going anywhere," she hissed, her finger tightening on the trigger. He slowly raised his hands, trying to reason with Alexandra. "Wait," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." "You're not supposed to be here." No one was. Alexandra's eyes flashed with skepticism, but she didn't fire. "What do you want?" she spat. Jack took a deep breath, trying to come up with a convincing story. But before he could speak, the sound of alarms filled the air and the lights began to flash. The facility was on lockdown, and Jack knew he had to act fast. "We have to get out of here now," Jack said, grabbing Alexandra's arm and pulling her towards the door. But Alexandra resisted, trying to shake off Jack's grip. "I'm not going anywhere with you," she spat, her eyes blazing with anger. Jack didn't have time to argue. He scooped Alexandra up and threw her over his shoulder, ignoring her struggles and curses as he made a run for the exit. They burst through the door just as the security guards were arriving, their guns drawn. Jack dodged and weaved, using his agility and training to evade the guards' bullets. As they emerged into the cool night air, Jack could hear the sound of sirens approaching. He knew they had to get out of there, fast. He went straight to his getaway black SUV, parked nearby. Without hesitation, Jack tossed Alexandra into the passenger seat and jumped in behind the wheel. As they sped away from the facility, Jack could see the guards giving chase, their guns blazing. He floored it, the SUV surging forward as they hurtled through the night. Alexandra was silent, her eyes fixed on Jack with a mixture of anger and fear. Jack knew he had to keep her safe, at least until he could figure out what was going on. As they drove, Jack's mind was racing. What was the Eclipse Project? And why was Alexandra involved? He glanced over at Alexandra, who was watching him with a calculating gaze. This woman was not to be underestimated. To be continued in Melbourne Close 2.